non-linear futures visioning practice that creates culturally based alternative expressions of our collective futures. As a curator of Afrofuturism, I understand the power of story to shape our relationship to the future. This is why I wanted to be in conversation today with these three amazing artists, Afridi, Pierre-Christophe, and Mounir Ayache. In addition to being a curator for over 20 years, I was a mayoral candidate in Detroit, a chief community officer for a blockchain startup, and most recently, I've become a futures researcher. In each of these roles, I have established a future vision and have learned to communicate that vision to others. I found that the more rooted in culture a story is, the deeper the connection. I've also found that people are curious about the ways in which traditions can transform and evolve into the future. This is the one thing I know inspires them to imagine over and beyond their mental limitations. My work is centered on the belief that through exposure to the possibilities, or, like jazz musician Sun Ra said, the impossible, the mind can shift. It all starts with establishing what I call an Afrofutures consciousness, a foundation for the ethical imagining of a just future. Last year, I created a method to begin cultivating this decolonized mind called the Genrations method, which combines elements of Afrofuturism and foresight. Through a series of imagination exercises, the Genrations method relies on the magic of artists who are the best ones to illustrate the impossible. They make our story visually seductive and challenge our understanding of potential futures. This process is healing and necessary for innovation to flourish. I curated this panel because each of these artists has a story to tell that is culturally grounded in ancestral wisdom, which guides us through the various realities of our world. The impossible comes alive with each presentation today. As you listen to our conversation, think about the ancestral wisdom that shapes your futures. What new stories do you need to envision and manifest to manifest a harmonious and just future? After our conversation, we will open it up to questions, so please be ready. So let's begin. Based in New York, born in Pakistan, Afridi's work exists in a genre he termed as sci-fi Sufism, which is about discovering galaxies and our worlds within ourselves. He draws upon inspiration from Sufi poetry, South Asian folklore, Islamic mythology. He is a recipient of the Cannes Lion Awards and has been featured on BBC, Al Jazeera, and more. Afridi.
Thank you. I'd like to talk really briefly today about a project, a body of work that I've been working on for a few years. It's called Space Mosque. Space Mosque is a parafictional narrative that I've developed and worked on, and it really all started from this one quote that I came across, which was, "If all your prayers were answered," and this kind of was the launching point of the idea. So around the turn of the millennium, a global phenomenon occurred, which has since been erased from our memories. Due to the arrival of this strange vessel from the future, this spiritual machine from outer space, each human on the planet had a chance to have a prayer answered every 20 years. And the vessel uniquely manifested itself differently depending on the personal biases of the individuals witnessing it. So some saw an elaborate minaret, others saw a magnificent winged butterfly. The first one that was seen over Karachi in Pakistan was described as this futuristic mosque, and that's why the name Space Mosque sort of stuck as part of the phenomenon. The vessel itself was a spiritually conscious spaceship. It was an energy station, a prayer gateway, and its divine algorithms and foresight technology determined the types of prayers and selections it chose to answer. It was first seen in Lahore, then in Egypt, and everywhere else. And then one day, it just vanished. All we are left with are artifacts and findings from the time. They are this, we don't know exactly what all they do, but we have theories. I have a full sort of, unfortunately, we don't have time to kind of go through it all today, but on the 21st, there'll be a more sort of elaborate discussion on this. But I just sort of wanted to give you a little taste of what Space Mosque is. There's a universe and multiple stories that are connected to human stories. So these are just sort of some of the artifacts and the sightings that we've discovered from this forgotten time.
Thank you.
That was short, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, this is a very short session, so this is a very short presentation.
This is usually an hour discussion.
Yes, which we will be doing on Thursday at El Cercal at 1 p.m. So next we have born and raised in France with roots in Cameroon, Chad, Egypt, and Congo. Pierre-Christophe is an MIT Open Doc Lab Fellow and the inaugural artist-in-resident at the Penn Center for Inclusive Innovation and Technology. The polymath artist crafts new tales that draw from ancient myths rooted in Africa's pre-colonial heritage. Pierre-Christophe.
Thank you very much. For the tech team, if you can center the presentation in the middle of the screen.
Oh, it's off-centered slightly.
It's okay, no problem. How do you do this?
Yeah, right, Tad.
Okay, let me just talk about technical issues. So, my name is Pierre-Christophe. I'm a visual artist, researcher, and I'm a trainer. And my practice is at the intersection of art, spirituality, and foresight. And essentially, I'm interested to see how myths and stories can be used as a way to facilitate the envisioning of desirable future. The project that I'm going to be presenting to you is a beautiful imagery. It's called togunaworld.com. It is an art and foresight research laboratory, and it's very much a labor of love. One of the last 12 years of research, and the platform was formally finalized in 2019 through initial workshops that took place in Kenya, in Ghana, and since then it is a research platform. And Toguna essentially virtual, web-based, immersive experience, virtual experience. On the website, what you see that I cannot show you great imagery. Hopefully, we'll be able to see them at some point. What you're able to see online is a place called the Sanctuary of Dream, which exists as a digital temple. And that temple is informed by a spiritual tradition called Ifa, which comes from the Yoruba people in West Africa. And Ifa, at the same time, a philosophy, a science, and a divination system. And the goal of Ifa is to explain how energy is transmuted into matter. And so according to Ifa, according to the Yoruba, the world, everything that exists in our world stems from a primordial energy. So everything that we see and everything that we don't see all emanate from the same source. And humans in the world in which we exist, we are co-creator of reality. And according to Ifa again, there's 5 principles according to which humans are able to manifest the dreams into reality. And translated in English, one is the body, the mind, the spirit, the heart, and the soul. And these are the 5 principles which are used, the presentation, so I'm going to take them through, which are the principles which are used as we venture through the experience. Okay, so the project was Unity for Humanity. Okay, so this is what I was just describing to you now, so we didn't miss much time. This is what it looks like. So this is the Sanctuary of Dreams. It is accessible. Yep. So this is the Sanctuary of Dreams. Better? Increase the volume, please. So this is the Sanctuary of Dreams, WebGL space I mentioned. So you can access it directly with a VR set. And this space was developed in collaboration with the Afridi. It's very much designed as if it was a traditional temple, but in the digital space, essentially. And that space served to onboard participants to a workshop, so a future workshop, which I call the Future Dreaming Ritual. And there's a series of... thank you very much. Hello? Perfect. Okay. Now we're good. You could not hear from the beginning. Okay, now let me go through. It's good. Let's go through the deck. Let's go more formally through the deck.
Shame.
Okay, so Toguna World is an innovative art and research lab that serves as a dynamic platform for cross-cultural conversation on desirable future. At its core, the Century of Dream, an immersive 360 with at its core, the Century of Dream. At its core lies, the Century of Dream, an immersive 360-degree WebGL experience designed as a digital temple. Drawing inspiration from Ifa, the ancient spiritual tradition from West Africa, and the ancient West African divination system, this sacred space is composed of 5 ritual buildings encircling an open courtyard. So this is what you can see here. It is a realm where art, spirituality, and technology come together, providing participants with the unique opportunity to explore the deepest aspiration and co-create visions for shared desired future. So essentially, this ritual very much centers on people's desire. And what we go through the ritual, we look at 5 questions. How will we eat, play, dream? And I think I present it on the next slide. So this is what it looks like. So everybody's welcome to go online to explore it. I'm speeding because of time. And so the Future Dreaming workshop series. So essentially in the workshop, we go for 5 questions. How will we eat, play, dream, love, and pray in the context of an ideal future? And it obviously looks at food production, distribution. Play looks at economy, but very much understanding that money as a currency is a social construct. So behind economy is very much about how do humans collaborate together towards shared visions. Then how will we dream looks at education, sharing our knowledge, but it looks at external knowledge and intuition, inner knowledge. How will we love looks at community, interdependency, mutual support. And how will we pray looks at wellness, spiritual, mental, and physical. So these are the 5 questions which are explored through the ritual. And essentially the question that is asked to participants is that in an ideal future, how would you like to feel? So the feeling is the foundation upon which the design occurs. And so the Future Dreaming series, developed in collaboration with African Rising, a grassroots network of 44,000 members, builds on Toguna's unique workshop methodology known as the Future Dreaming Ritual. This approach helps participants self-transcend self-limiting beliefs, and explore foundational questions such as how will we eat, play, dream, love, and pray in an ideal future. The insight gathered will be presented, so this is what I've been working on now. The insight gathers will be presented as part of large-scale installation set to be unveiled through 2025. And this installation will showcase diverse visionary perspective on our shared future in the hope of sparking public discourse and positively shaping the conversation that will define tomorrow. Yep, and this is it for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and I'm glad that we got that all worked out. So now, born in France with Moroccan heritage, Mounir Ayache's technological creations cast an unfamiliar light on the political and his sci-fi approach weaves together family histories, fictionalized reappropriations of experiences, and Arab identities. Ayache has shown in biennial Manifesta 13 in Barcelona. He was a winner of the Creator Stores with Adidas residency, and more species in Rome.
Hello everyone, thanks for being here. I want to talk about my practice through 3 projects I've selected that I think are relevant. And the first one I started, that isn't over now, but is a flight simulator. And it's the way I think my work. It's always referring to history. In this case, it was Ibn Rushd, what we called Averroès in Europe. So it was this guy from the south of Spain, Islamic south of Spain part during the 13th century, if I don't remember well. And this character is very unknown in Europe, but very important in philosophy, for a lot of things. And I wanted to link this figure, and as well as I do in my project, with a family story. So this project talks about my father's life, who grew up in Morocco in the city of Fez, the old city. And he migrated to France, and he ended up working in the aerospace industry. So the idea was to create something that merged these two concepts. So aerospace, so this is a space flight simulator. And the idea was to create all this control with an astrolabe so the spectator can use the flight sim, and he can cross, and you have like arabesque shapes, like in the end of the 2001 Space Odyssey scene of the movie, but now it's arabesque, Moroccan arabesque. So this is like the project with what I started this work, this way of thinking my project. And the second one was shown, so it was the 2020 biennial in Marseille, where I work. So this project is called Hadija, and this project talks about my grandmother in Fez. So my father used to, I knew her a bit because she died when I was young, but she always talked about her like a heroine. So I created this character when she became like Marvel superhero. Oh, sorry, I don't. She's on the table, and the spectator could enter the space, and she's in conversation with an AI, talking about politics and how she wants to be free, and it was like a metaphor of the 50s in Morocco with the end of colonization. And the idea is always to refer to stories, for familiar story for this one, and to project it in the future and to imagine what could be the future from a Moroccan perspective, I think. And for Morocco, it's interesting because we are the cross between Arabic world and also West Africa. So especially in Fez, as you have this pilgrimage from West Africa coming, and for example, my grandmother was working with people from Senegal and Mali. So this is the kind of project, and the one I'm doing right now, I've started in Villa Medici. I don't know if there is images. So this one, I wanted to work about with the character is Hassan Al-Wazen, known in France especially as Léon the African, Léon l'Africain. And he was this 16th century character that was like a diplomat for the Sultan of Morocco. And he was captured by Sicilian pirates and offered to the Pope at the time. And he was asked to write a book, description of Africa, which was the first book to describe seriously Africa in Europe. And it was a bestseller at the time. And also, for me, it was the beginning of Orientalism and the starting point of colonization, so to see something, to make dreams in Europe about Africa, North Africa. And the idea was to take this character and put it 1,000 years in the future from his era, so in 26th century. And so now I'm working on dioramas, you can see on the left. It's like, the idea was to use this form of sculpture because in Europe it was a lot about colonial era, so this form of presentation. So now it has totally disappeared. So the idea was to reuse this format, but from someone descending from colonization, and also, so I also put the same environment in video game, and so and this is the detail. So this is like episode where you can see, so this is like a spaceship in the future, and you see it's engraved with different patterns from mosque, palace, from all the Arabic region. And right now I'm developing a video game where you can control this character, Hassan Al-Wazan, and you can discuss with futuristic character in this video game. And maybe it's time, no? It's okay. And so I'm working with a 3D scan company which is based in Paris, and they have different scan from the MENA region, also Africa. So like right now I'm working with Agadez Mosque, Pizé Mosque. So you can enter, it's like in 500 years, and you can talk with people, understand what's going on. And voilà, this is an ongoing project.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so we have about 10 minutes for conversation, and then we'll open it up for questions. I want to start with you, Mounir. 1,000 years in the future, or is there a such thing by the time we get to that point?
I think this identity stays, but for me, growing up, was born in 91. All you heard about is from a French perspective, you had decolonization, the problem following the decolonization. For me, all those problems are solved, and you get back to a state like it was in the 16th century, where you have exchange. I was born with internet, so I think my way of thinking of the relation between countries and people, and for me it's like a big réseau link, like a network. So I think and I hope it will dissolve some frontier. And it was interesting working on the 16th century, because you can read map from the time, and it's totally different. Especially for Africa, you have like 3 zones. It's not the same. So we cannot imagine now what would it be, but I know it will be totally different from what we are now. So, and I hope it will be more fluid. Just when I see now all the people my age that have internet, how closer we are compared to our parents' generation. We know what we do, we know what for some we can travel, we can discover, even with some stuff that may be stupid, like Instagram or TikTok, you know so much more about the other than before, I think. So I'm trying to stay positive about the future.
It reminds me of something that Pierre-Christophe says often: the end will look like the beginning. And I like this kind of circling back around. So Pierre, why Ifa? Like, why very specifically that spiritual practice? Did you grow up with that, or how did you come in contact with it?
So, not at all. I'm from Cameroon and Chad and Egypt, so I don't have direct connection with Ifa. But I was interested in the question of the future of the African continent, because very similarly in thinking about decolonizing movement, and my family have a particular story where my dad was a diplomat for France and had to leave Cameroon. And when we were growing up, we traveled across Africa, but I only was able to go to Cameroon the first time when I was 29 years old. So I was very much aware of colonization growing up. And at the same time, and I was born similar to Mounir, I'm born and raised in France. And at the same time, I looked at demographic shift that will be happening on the African continent. By the end of this century, Africa is going to become the most populated continent in the world. And nearly 40% of the world population will live in Africa. So it means that the way we understand the dynamic of power in the world today is going to change drastically, and people living alive today will get to see it. And so with the understanding that the future, like the present, is ultimately informed by our dreams and our imagination, I was interested in looking at what are the tools that could enable us to be able to situate ourselves in the present, for us to start envisioning a future that we desire, as opposed to a future that we'll have to accommodate ourselves with, right? And when I looked at IFA in its core philosophy, very much question this nature of reality by centering humans as co-creator of our world. And that's very much aligned with my own philosophy. And the more I looked into IFA, the more I realized that as a philosophy, it was very much creating a space that could enable people to center their own intuition, their own desire and inner voice into this process of collective envisioning. And so that, for all of this reason and more, this is why IFA came very important. And I think I would say the other aspect as well is that I very much see art as spiritual. And when you look across civilization in the past, art was always, now there is a way that we understand art as a commodity, right? There's a price of art, there's the value of art, etc. But that's very contextual. Before, across civilization, art, artistic experience, and this is in all of its art form, music and so forth, it was used as tools to help individuals and communities transcend the material, limited, physical reality of our world and to be able to connect with something invisible, something that can only be experienced, right? Transcendental. And so I very much see art as some kind of launchpad, that can enable us to tap. And ultimately, it's about creating rituals that enable us to tap within. And in that sense, this is how I use art, and this is why IFA came as the right way towards this project.
I love your project because it's such an amazing example of Afrofuturism, pulling on cosmologies and to inform our now and into the future. I'm thinking about transcendence as sex. So prayer becomes a commodity, and so we are witnessing the post-event. What happens? How does that impact our future? Like this event, I'm curious about, if you could just share maybe one of the theories of why they came and then how that might have created a different future for us or a different trajectory globally.
Sure. First of all, could everyone hear me earlier when I was somewhat? Okay, so you understand somewhat of the concept of
No? Okay.
of Space Mosque. So, all right, I'll do this quickly then. So Space Mosque is a parafictional phenomenon that occurred in the near past, we think somewhere around 2002 to 2005, where this spaceship from the future arrived, and along with it, each human on the planet had the ability to have one prayer answered every 24 hours. So when everybody has a prayer that can be answered every 24 hours, every religion, every human being, good things happen and bad things happen. And so one of the things that happened is as people started praying for wealth, which is the first thing that they did, inflation came into place, and before you know it, prayer became the de facto global currency. So with that, some, I guess, creative, enterprising, not so well-intentioned people, I guess, discovered that children's prayers were much more easily answered and realized because of their intention of purity. And so this gave rise to the secret prayer farms. And so the governments of the world, the religions of the world, the corporations of the world, all essentially became clients of the prayer farms. And the leaders of the prayer farms started playing God themselves. And this kind of created this new system in the world. But we believe that the majority of people found out, and the theory is that enough people prayed for it all to go away that it did. And all we're left with now are these glitched artifacts from that time. And we're sort of piecing the pieces together. Piecing the pieces together? Sure. To sort of figure out what happened, and this is sort of what we've discovered from there. Did I answer the question?
Sure.
Okay.
I just was wondering, so now it's 20 years after that event. How did that change our trajectory or
So what's interesting is it's been forgotten from our memories.
Oh.
And that's why we didn't really learn anything from it.
Oh.
And that's sort of the tragedy and reality of it all, is that this was an opportunity for humankind to learn, to what end will my prayer help me or beyond me? And so it sort of comes back to that first quote, if all your prayers were answered, would it change the world or just yours? So at least in this narrative, a lot of that has been forgotten.
It kind of reminds me of like if you're into reincarnation and past lives and how we don't remember them. And therefore we have to navigate in a very spiritual way, hoping that we learn the lesson, but sometimes we're repeating and then we got to come back. So I want to open it up to questions. Does anyone have a question in the audience? Yes.
Yeah, so
Can you repeat the question?
the question was, what about the evil prayers? What would happen to them if they were realized? So the vessel itself had intention algorithms put into the place. So when a prayer would go in and it would detect jealousy and other sort of greed and other impurities in the prayer, it would not realize them. So the way to get that prayer realized, though, is to get a child to pray for it. And that was sort of the way around into getting it. But then, fortunately, there were enough people from the other side praying for the opposite, so it balanced each other out.
Awesome. Oh, a way to navigate the system.
Intentionship.
Yeah. Does anyone else have a question? Yes.
Yes. So the first one will take place in.
Repeat the question.
So the question was about the large-scale installation. So I was mentioning before that. Hello. I was like, this is playing with me. When is my time? It's so essentially, this is a research exercise around future, and the goal of it is to be able to bring forward alternative vision of the future, because right now, very much here this is a gathering of people that intentionally consider and understand the fact that reality is imagined and designed and then created. But in the context of the general public, there's a sense that the future is something that just happens and we have to kind of make way with it. And the goal for me is to bring forward more optimistic positives of the future and to create installation that enable the public to be able to take part in that process of envisioning. And so as part of the first investigation that we just completed, there's going to be a series of installations. The first one is going to be in Greece, in Athens, with the Onassis Foundation. So this will be during Plasmata, it will be in the summer. And then there's a series of different installations that will take place. There is in Belgium, I cannot talk yet too much about it. There's one in Nigeria. There's a series that are happening next year and then in the years to follow. But essentially, the goal of this project from the beginning was to operate on two levels, to have it as a digital experience, and that is continuing. There's a series of new artifacts that are being designed. There's an AI oracle, which is soon to be released, and to have it as a physical installation. And I think similar, interestingly, into our practices is that as part of this research, there is the space for which the investigation, the dreaming takes place, but at the same time, as part of the physical output, I'm creating a series of objects. There's like an angle in which we have to. Okay, let me just shout. So there is a series of objects which I'm developing at the moment, and I'm working with a series of artisans across Africa, and each of these objects are informed by specific rituals, and I kind of see them as totems of the future. So it's a very large ongoing investigation project.
Awesome. One more question. Yes. She's right behind you. There you go.
Okay. Oh, well. I was interested in the fact that we are talking about myth and linked to perhaps archetype or African archetype. And I'm very pleased to have your different vision. And you are talking about across Africa. We have some American experience and about diasporic experience. So my question is, And I link to another foresight methodology about CLA. I don't know if you're
Causal
aware
layered
about
analysis.
CLA.
Yeah.
It's different layers. And the deepest you dig into the foundation of the vision of future, the strongest way to think and to dig about that, it's about myth. So my question for all of you is about, have you found common myths in your investigation in African cultures?
Okay.
Your audience, have you found something similar, common? And are you seeking to work all together? I mean, to realize a real African project, a continental project, and to look for common ground about vision of future. It's ambitious, I'm sorry, but I'm very interested about that.
Thank you so much. We have 5 minutes. So I'm going to, if you can answer this one final question along with her question. And we only have 5 minutes.
I'll make a
What would be your recommendation for the next and future generations? So if you can hopefully combine her question with this last question, and then we're going to close out the session. Mounir.
To answer your question very quickly, I've had this question many times during conferences, and I think the tool are being developed so this can be possible. I think right now it's still in the process of making, but I think it's a lot of artists want to do this, so I hope in the next 10, 20 years we should have some platforms that works well to do this, to make all these things in common and to make something out of a system, something decentralized, and I think that's how it could work. And for the next generation, to the question, I think it's really important for me for next generation that are coming to give them dream and to create content. For me, I really like entertainment, movies like blockbuster, and some things that can craft idea in a children's mind and give him the want to become engineer, I don't know, or artist. I think we need more content with other cultural perspective. And I think that's what we have to work on.
To your question, so actually the investigation that I just completed, I mentioned I work with a grassroots network called Africans Rising, which has 44,000 members spread across the continent from North Africa, Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, Kenya, South Africa, and they are the people that we've done the investigation with. So it's a truly transcontinental exercise. And in many ways, the Ifa tradition is a philosophy. And that divination system is actually a system that you find adapted. It's basically based on the formal Ifa divination ritual is based around the binary code system, which many argue is the one that is behind the binary code system that is behind modern computer. But that system, in the way it operates, is something that you find versions of it across Africa, from Tuareg, the Berber communities, to Kenya, to Cameroon, it's very much a central paradigm in a way in terms of, and so that's why it's very much why I utilized it. And I think as well in terms of the output, and it kind of connect to a question that was being asked before around, what about if people have evil wishes, right? Negative, desire. What I invite people to consider through the exercise is for them to think about how do they want to feel? How do they want to feel in the context of an ideal future? And from that perspective, everything that comes about is because often this kind of negative thoughts comes from a place of scarcity, and from a place of limitation, and based on the story we have accepted about the world, and so we start from limitation, and often it's from a place of from defense, protections, and so forth, right? It's a reaction to something else. And so the exercise shape it in a very different way, and what comes from the exercise is very positive, ultimately. And through this, there is a collective dreaming exercise. So the question around...
We have 2 minutes.
The future?
Yeah, just your recommendation for future. We need to get the mic
So
for Jax.
I will say one quote, which is part of the project, which is the secret to reality is that everything is just a dream, and it is only when dreams are seeded onto the infinite soil of our imagination that it can manifest into our world. So imagination is fundamental, it's essential, and we need to empower our youth, but even us ourselves as well, to be able to dream right from a place of radical optimism.
Thank you. Jax?
To your question, from a collaboration standpoint, first of all, I would love to collaborate with these two artists, and thank you so much for curating this panel and the thread that runs through the three of us. In a lot of my projects, I work with artisans, artists, 3D modelers, architects. In fact, a lot of the artifacts that you saw were designed by architecture students at Pratt University under Ferda Kolotan, who's an architect as well and is kind of famous in his own right. And so these collaborations do exist. I come from a world of advertising where teams and groups of people all sort of work together, and that's only how things get better. So I believe things made in a silo, especially larger projects like this that are sort of like world building, are very hard to do. They become it just becomes a lot more interesting when done with multiple people. And to answer your question about what advice would I give to future generations, I would just to empathy and Bitcoin.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We will have a longer conversation on Thursday, A1 Space at Al Serkal, the Arts District here in Dubai, from 1 p.m. to 3, where each will have 20 minutes to dive into their projects, which I'm really excited about. And yeah, thank you so much for coming. And my recommendation for future generations is don't forget to play even when you become an adult, and that's the same for all of you. Have a good day.